the second Great Depression in American history. The first videos that I've covered is going to be linked in the last 20 seconds of this video. This one, we're going to talk about the historic parallel between the president who presided over the first Great Depression, Herbert Hoover, back in 1929, with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, like Herbert Hoover, was a protectionist. The Smoots-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 instituted tariffs on foreign imported goods in an effort to encourage and boost domestic industry to help recover the country from the high levels of unemployment. The whole premise of the Smoots-Hawley Tariff Act was to even out cheaper goods that were imported to America. That's what a tariff does. It's a tax on imported goods, to the point in which the consumer is incentivized to purchase the American good. But really what Hoover did was he prolonged the Great Depression, because what happened after we instituted the tariffs? The foreign countries who exported these goods to America, they issued retaliatory tariffs on American exports, which ended up raising the price of American goods. Less goods were sold than the amount that they produced, so they were losing out of money, and that ended up raising unemployment and ended up resulting in a loss of production. So retaliatory tariffs are why tariffs generally don't work. Donald Trump was a tariff man, just like Herbert Hoover. He instituted tariffs against EU and Mexico and China, and that has reduced economic output for Donald Trump and his failed administration. So both of these guys were tariff men, and they're going to be the two guys who presided over both Great Depressions in American history. Herbert Hoover was the 31st president of the United States, which is interesting because Donald Trump was born on June the 14th of 1946. June the 14th of 1946 has a birthday numerology of 31, and this is exactly why Donald Trump is the president of the next Great Depression in America, 91 years after 1929, the year of, I think it was Black Tuesday, I think it was. So Trump's birthday numerology is 31. Hoover is the 31st president of the United States. That's the parallel. There were 30 prior presidents before Herbert Hoover. He was also dead on October the 20th, which adds to the 30. And now the reason why the 30 is all significant is because the next Great Depression is a combination of multiple factors. Number one being the coronavirus outbreak and Donald Trump's failure to properly get America ready to handle this pandemic. So it's the coronavirus. It's Corona that has Gematria of 30, and this is precisely why the next Great Depression is going to happen during Donald Trump. And the last Great Depression occurred with Herbert Hoover. There were 30 prior presidents before Hoover. It's bankrupt that has Gematria of 31. The United States truly was, after the Great Depression, Donald Trump being born on a 31 day. Donald Trump has lived his whole life bankrupting firms and having to settle for Russian debt and Rothschild restructured debt. Herbert Hoover's initials are H. His initials add up to 16. Now, Donald Trump is the 16th Republican to be president. That is the significance of Herbert Hoover's initials. It's Herbert that has Gematria of 40. It's 2020 that has a year numerology of 40. Check out the Gematria of Herbert Clark Hoover, the full name of Hoover, and President Donald J. Trump. Both of these have the same Pythagorean Gematrias. 1929 is a 48 year. The crash occurred under Republicans. The next crash is going to occur under Donald Trump. Donald Trump has Gematria 48. Republicans is 48. 1929 adds up to 21. Inauguration year 21 for the next president of the United States. That's that particular significance. Herbert Hoover was also born on a year numerology of 29, so the script was in years ago, before the Great Depression. That's 29. And the next thing that I'm going to talk about, the 2 years in which America would see depressions, the year 29 and 1929, and then the year 20, both of these add up to 49. Crash has Gematria 49, Donald J. Trump has Gematria 49. FDR helped the United States recover from the Great Depression. The 19th Democratic president is going to help the country recover from the bankruptcy. It's going to be war, and it's going to be the Democrats are going to win the election. Last Democrat elected 2008, the year of the last recession. And Elizabeth Warren's initials add up to 28 too. FDR and EW are both going to add up to 28. Hoover and Trump are protectionists. Protectionism, Donald John Trump, tariffs. Herbert Hoover died in a 20-year. The next Great Depression is going to happen in 2020. 2020 is the end of Donald Trump. 1964 adds up to 20. He was dead on the 20th day. Herbert Hoover died in 1964. The amount of time from Herbert Hoover's death to the next depression is going to be 56 years. All of this happening because of the coronavirus. Coronavirus has Gematria 56. Herbert Hoover. H is the 8th letter. 8 Herbert. Hoover 8 forming an 88 initials. And that's because Donald Trump, 88 years after the tariffs, instituted his own. It all connected to Hoover and the Smoots-Hawley Act. Notice how tariff and Mexico have Gematria 33. And how about the EU? How about Belgium, where they meet in the European Union? Belgium having that Gematria 33. The Smoots-Hawley Tariff Act was passed in the year 1930, and the fact that this was Hoover's the main piece of legislation, it really shows how the next Great Depression was going to result from the novel coronavirus pandemic. This is the historic parallel. The main thing in this video is Herbert Hoover is the 31st president. He instituted his own failed tariffs like Donald Trump. And it is Herbert Hoover and Donald Trump that are going to be the two presidents that preside over the next depression. Donald Trump born on a birthday numerology of 31. This is exactly how you know that this is all scripted, that he's going to be the next president to preside over a depression. And the last one was Herbert Hoover, and he presided over the Great Depression of 1929. The difference between 45 and 31, 14 presidents later, and it's going to be the end of Donald Trump, that's for sure, and it's going to be a downward spiral for the Republican Party. And they're even losing all of their values, their so-called conservative values, if they had any. But now you start to see exactly why we are going to be in the depression. I correctly predicted the stock market crash of 2020.